Dear Lord, thank you for this wonderful day and this wonderful week, Lord. Just thank you for the beautiful weather you've given us, and just continue to be with all of our seniors as they're working on the capstone presentation, and just let them bring glory to you through their hard work, Lord. Just help us finish up this year strong. Amen. So tonight we have the privilege of hearing from one of our very own alumna, Katie Masten from Ernst and Young. So let's give her a warm welcome.
All right, so I know some of you guys I saw last year, so I guess thanks for coming back again. I work for Ernst and Young out of the Richmond office. I'm a second-year staff there, and get a little bit more into exactly kind of what UI is. I know many of you already know it's a Big Four accounting firm. Just a little bit more of what's offered at a Big Four firm. It's pretty much universal across the large accounting firms, but there's definitely more than just audit and just tax. So don't feel like you're limited to those two things. But first I have an icebreaker for us, kind of UI style. Do you guys have paper by any chance? Okay. There's pens over here on my little table here, so you're welcome to take that. But this is our,
We need a whole sheet for this.
however many you need to put in 25 lines. So, these are different companies. And the more you can guess correctly, whoever guesses the most correctly, I have two Starbucks gift cards. So, the most correct is $15 one, second most is $10 one. Yes, they're in that box.
Thank you.
You're Googling that.
She can come. I got her next thing.
I think I will Google. You with blue and red.
Playing corporate logo game, and we are in the running for Starbucks gift cards. So,
Ooh.
you want to grab a piece of paper from somebody?
Sure.
There's pens
Do
up
you
here.
get deductions if you put one down and it's wrong?
Yes.
Say that again?
You get deductions if you guess and
What's
it's
that?
wrong.
Yes, this thing I say
Is it negative incentive?
What if I said spell?
Minus 0.25.
All right, stop. Okay. So, since we're all accountants here, we're going to do this on the honor system, unless anyone think they can't handle the honor system? No? All right. So, here are the answers. And just a little something about each one, if you didn't already know. Most of the time, I think you guys should know. You guys know Unilever? They do like big consumer products like Dove and stuff like that. Alliance was the one that I had difficulty with when I did it the first time. They do annuities and life insurance products. They have a Minneapolis office and a New York City office, and those are their two big locations. BNP a French bank. Did anybody get all of them right? Anybody get 24 out of 25? 23 out of 25? 22? 21? 20? 19? 18? 17? 16?
I promise I was not.
Well, you hope she get the most right, huh?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
If you were
if she
like-
got less than you, then it would kind of be like, why did you get that? Because she cheated. Nice. Okay, we're at 16? 15? You have 15?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
It's in good.
Oh, just a quick question.
All right, what is your name?
Cassie.
Cassie. All right. Good job. And 14? Anyone else get 14? All right, what is your name? Tim? Nice job. All right.
Right now, it's like Chevron.
Are there any ones that anyone did not understand and want like the answer to again? You all good? Yeah. Okay.
Don't they have an alligator?
Alligator? Lacoste?
Oh, yeah.
25 is Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, I got that right. Popular anymore?
I feel like it's popular. Like,
Yeah, it was like popular, I think. They
That'd be bad.
Did
did anyone get Lacoste?
I ran out of
All right.
time.
Okay, that makes sense.
They make-
In my head, but-
Oh, no, Crocs.
No, Crocs is Crocs.
I feel like Lacoste was one when people started first popping their collars.
Yes.
Like, it was.
They were like, they first started like the designer, I'm gonna wear a designer t-shirt because I put a logo on it and they can charge an extra $20 for it. Lacoste was like, definitely you got on that bandwagon in the top. Alright. Any other ones? Did you guys get Xerox? That was weird, right? Because the X.
What's 25?
25 is Louis Vuitton.
Looks like it.
Well,
It's just
different
the French
colors.
fashion house.
Isn't Expedia
Alright.
Doesn't look the same.
You got it?
20.
21 is Chevron. All right. So I graduated, like Dan said, in 2012, a couple years ago. Majored in accounting and finished out my 150 hours with a couple minors. So if any of you are looking to apply or want to get Big Four jobs and are eligible to take a CPA and just need like a couple more credits, just add on the business minor. It's like 2 classes. You can take any elective for that last little thing. So organizational ethics is a great formula of what you take.
What's required?
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah,
market.
it's required. Ah, good. Well, that's a very easy thing, so you shouldn't be getting anything taken away from your GPA for that. So, this minors, I'm a staff too, like I said before, and our office just moved over to what's called the financial services office. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. But last year when I was here, I was working primarily at Capital One as my main client, and that is obviously a banking and capital markets client. But this year I've been working on a lot of insurance clients, so Virginia Farm Bureau, James River Insurance, and those are definitely 2 different sides of the spectrum when it comes to financial services. Yeah, that's a little bit about some of the things that I do. A little bit about Ernst and Young. Arthur and Stanley Young was founded a long time ago. If you talk to some of your grandparents and older friends, they might ask or reference it as Ernst and Ernst, Ernst and Winnie. Yes, Ernst and Young is all of those. We just changed our branding in the past year to EY, but everyone still calls us Ernst and Young. But logo-wise, it's just an EY now, and our catchphrase is now building a better working world. All right. So different parts of our company, and a lot of this is very similar, like I was saying before, in the other Big Four accounting firms. Slightly different, possibly, but for the most part, they're going to have large components that are the same to remain competitive with the other Big Four accounting firms. So you have tax, assurance, which is your auditing, and for us, we have the manufacturing clients, so people who just deal with those clients, and they don't really have like financial services, so asset management and insurance and things like that. And then FSO, who deals primarily just with the banks and all those kinds of engagements. Advisory, those are ITRA and IT services. They are extremely important because, how many of you have taken audit? All right, anyone know why advisory and ITRA are really important in terms of an audit? Okay. Well, if you have functioning controls in an audit, you can rely on them. But if you do not have functioning controls that aren't tested, that you can't test by your ITRA teams and your advisory teams, the more you have to test in your substantive audit. So for example, one of my clients now, we do not rely on controls for a third of our audit, so one of our subsidiaries. And our sample size is 3 times as large because we don't test controls around those areas. But for areas that we do test controls around, we only have to selectively choose like a third of that population in order to get a better understanding of the company's earnings and profits and kind of what's going on there. So they are an extremely important part of the overall audit, and we definitely use them to make sure all the systems are in check and the controls that are working properly. Fraud investigation and detective services. This is our FIDS group. This is more, I don't know if you guys took that class with Professor Wargo before he left. A fraud accounting class. That is some good stuff. They do, this is like working for the CIA, FBI, they're going in behind these companies, and they are doing internal audits a lot of the times and saying, all right, well, you guys already did the audit, we're just gonna come and double check you guys, how do we know you're competent on it? So that's what they do there. TAS are transaction advisory services. They are more area specific. So a lot of the times, you have benefit plans or investments or like really high risk accounts, depending on your audit, we'll bring in some of our TAS people and have them help us with valuation or things like that, because I have no idea what any of that is. And I'm just a lowly staff, so I'm not gonna want to spend 40 hours on that when I don't know what I'm doing. So they do that on a regular basis, and they'll bounce around between clients. You know, we'll have one client one week, another client another week. Whereas for myself on assurance, I'll probably stay on the same client through the completion of the audit and then move to something else. And we have other specialists too who kind of are helping in an admin capacity, or like I said, just through valuation, and just supporting the other larger components of the firm. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So the Richmond office specifically, we merged into the FSO. So a financial services organization or offices, like I said before, it's basically just, I don't want to say they just deal with the financial part because all of audit deals with the financial part. But those companies that are strictly dealing with banks or insurance or asset management are going to be your big 3 financial services type clients. And the big advantage for the Richmond office here is that our office is so small. We have like maybe 300 people. And with this merge over, we're able to specialize in an area, go to specific training for that area, and kind of get a mastery over it. So instead of doing a little bit of cash, a little bit of AR, a little bit of accounts payable, we're saying, all right, we're going to take it as a whole, and we're going to learn about how cash, AR, AP, how all of that relates to insurance as a whole. And this is how it relates to property and casualty insurance companies and how it relates to life insurance companies. And so we're able to go to those kinds of trainings as opposed to something that when you're entering the workforce, you kind of get a general, welcome to the company, this is what we're gonna do, this is how you audit cash, this is how you audit inventory. So there's big advantages for being a part of the FSO. It also allows us to, in our downtime, be able to transfer to different offices in terms of work availability. So if I have a lot of unassigned time in my schedule, someone from like, I don't know, North Dakota, didn't have an office there, could like pick up my time for a client as a part of the financial services office when I could be working out there. So if you like traveling, definitely financial services is the way to go. The Richmond office itself is probably one of the larger in terms of coverage because they cover Richmond, and then out west they have a client here, CD Fleet, and they cover down all the way to North Carolina. So that's kind of like our geographic area. So there's plenty of work to be done. And that's a lot of the non-FSO, also a lot of FSO clients in Richmond. So there's always a need for people. I was talking to Professor Stowe. There's always a need in the Big Four because the turnover is so high. But if you love what you're doing, it's not usually a big deal. Some of the examples that I put up there for just what some examples of FSO clients were and some non-FSO ones were. I don't know if you guys are familiar with all of them. Obviously, Capital One and ING are like our biggest banking clients. Farm Bureau, Lincoln is in Pennsylvania. Non-FSO, we have Lumber Liquidators, and Bassett is one of the new ones that we picked up. They are way in Martinsville. You guys even know where Martinsville is? Yeah, it's like just the racetrack in Bassett. Like, that's Martinsville. So,
I grew up in Danville, that's why I know.
yeah, so Martinsville, very tiny place, but a nice audit there. And County, Philip Morris, they produce the machinery for the cigarettes. Is that confusing? So, in order for a cigarette to be made, obviously there's like, I don't even know how many in a pack, but they have these machines that kind of are like conveyor belt style. And County, they make these machines, they manufacture them. And they also, in their Philip Morris plant, which is located in Richmond, have the actual like, I guess, manufacturing of the cigarettes there. So I did an inventory there, that was very interesting. It was very large. It's weird when you're going into these businesses and you see people walking around smoking. You're like, you're inside, you can't smoke. But that's what they do, and they're very good at it. So we audit them. CF Sour, they do a lot of like baking like supplies, like spices and homemade products and stuff like that. All right, so this is a little bit more about the FSO. The three big types, like I was saying before, asset management, banking, capital markets, and insurance. I've kind of moved from our DCM to our insurance areas. So what they're trying to do is integrate it so you're majoring in something and minoring in something else, and make it in like a college type format. So they'd like to ideally get as many of their employees who they can invest in and expect to stay, at least through manager, to become familiar across as many service lines as possible. So that way they can transfer them where they need them the most, and when there's a shortage out in Los Angeles, they can pull people over there and bring people from LA to Richmond, or down to Phoenix or something like that. That way everyone's kind of on the same level playing field, and they're all getting the same specialized training. So, like I was saying before, the opportunities within the FSO, I think the biggest advantage I find for myself is the specialized trainings. Going into insurance, being able to specifically relate something to an audit of what I'm doing, since I, before this year, had no idea what it was a lot more beneficial than being stuck in a classroom going over how to audit cash. So, I mean, it's like 40 hours of auditing cash or 40 hours of learning actually something that can help you get a better rating. So, I think I do it. All right. So, I think I talked to most of the professors here. I'm talking to professors still a little bit. We have some opportunities at UI that are kind of on a recurring basis. Because Liberty is a small school and they don't necessarily recruit here directly, I'm working with Clint and Richard Glass over in the Career Center to kind of make sure that you guys are up to date with what's going on in our office as to what's available and when you need to have your stuff in order to be eligible for those things. So the Emerging Leaders Program, I believe you should have gotten some kind of notification or something, hopefully. This is for underclassmen. So if you're an upperclassman, you probably did not. This is really for sophomores and juniors who are pre-internship. This is kind of getting to go to Richmond, see where the office is located. You get to spend the day, it's like a day and a half, put you up in a nice hotel, you get to tour the river, and then you'll be in a room with a bunch of other people from other colleges like William and Mary and Georgetown, and we have peer-led panels, so the different service lines will actually tell you, hey, this is what we do on a regular basis. We're new to this first year, this is what we changed this year. And it's really a really great opportunity to just kind of meet with other people and network on a level that most other college kids don't have. I got to participate last year. I did the interviewing session for that, and it was really, I think, helpful just watching and interacting with everyone there. So it's a very competitive program to get into. There's like 20 spots in the Richmond office, so if you wanted to apply for that, I think the deadline for that was like March 1st. So I know I got many of your resumes and things and forwarded them onto my recruiter. But that is a prerequisite and a good step to getting into an internship. All of the internships at EY are paid. There's ones in the summer and ones in the winter. If you ever have an option, go for the winter one because you pay it. It's mainly for juniors, your third year. If you're in your technically your third year, not if you're a sophomore, and you have junior credits, because they want you to be able to graduate and come and work with them if they offer you a job. And you basically should plan on applying about 6 to 9 months in advance, because those are a lot more competitive, I feel like, than actual full-time positions. Because once you have an internship with a big four firm, it's a lot easier to apply to the job and get it offered. All right, full-time positions, plan on applying 6 months in advance. So if you are applying, let's see. So I applied in the beginning of September, and I was a senior, and then I ended up interviewing in November. So that's like right when we got back to school, full swing. And then I had a job offer before we left for Christmas break for the next year. So things are like fast moving. When you come back your senior year or whatever you're doing for grad school, if you want to apply for Big Four, you kind of need to be on the ball, have your stuff ready, reference letters ready, apply, good to go. And I know for EY now, I think they always take resumes for internships. For full-time positions, I believe we still have a couple open for fall. And I think we might have a few for the winter. There's no real advantage or disadvantage to entering the workforce in the winter, except you get more time to study for the CPA. So, is anyone having 150 credits taking the CPA like this summer? Yes, okay. Definitely try to take as much as you can and get it out of the way before you start wherever you are. Because there's no, it's just really difficult it's just really difficult.
We've seen Becca's eyes go really big.
I mean, we were talking about it earlier about the number of hours that we were working. I, on a minimum, work like 50 hours a week. And that's, I mean, I love what I'm doing, so I'm totally fine with that. But 50 hours is 50 hours. Dr. Stella was saying she worked on average 40 hours on a non-busy season capacity, but definitely 60 hours average during busy season. And that's just pretty much the norm across any accounting firm. I mean, whenever your busy season comes, whether it's at tax times around September for corporations or for audit people, it's definitely that January, February period. You're just going to be busy. So you kind of have to rule out, I'm not going to be studying for the CPA during that period, unless I'm out of mind. So as many sections as you can take between graduating and actually entering the workforce is definitely ideal over the first year. I did not do that. I'm still studying. So that's definitely something you want to get out of the way. I think that's all I have. Did you guys have questions specifically? I wanted to leave it. That was like a really fast overview of what the firm was. Everything kind of out there. Any specific questions?
You said you interned with them, like, you got the offer senior year, and then when you graduated, was that an intern, or did you go right to full-time?
I went right into full-time.
You did?
I did not intern.
Okay.
So you do not, although it looks great to have an internship, you do not have to have an internship to get a job. It does look better. Most of my friends in my class have had an internship with Ernst and Young, but a good third of us have not had any internships. So I don't think you're not at a disadvantage if you have it, because they teach you everything that you need to know right when you're all starting. You're all in the same boat. Yes.
Did you say you had an internship at all, or just with Ernst and Young?
I did not have an internship at all.
So I guess a follow-up question on that would be, when they trained you, that's not having any internship, although it might not have been specifically relevant, how long was your training process? After they accepted you in and you were working, when that started, how long was that training process before you were like, okay, here you go?
Well, they kind of had like a few days in the actual Richmond office where you were just kind of meeting everyone in the firm. These are our partners. This is, this guy's in charge of tax. This is where everything is located. You're going to be in charge of getting all the supplies. This is where this is. And then we had a full week up in McLean of just pure staff training. Basics 101. This is what a cash account looks like. This is kind of what you're gonna want to know going in just as a basic level. No one expects you to know anything at all. So just take this book and do what we tell you. So from that kind of standpoint, you don't really need to know anything going in because it's going to be very different than what you learned in college. What I thought of it when I went my first week was learning everything in college was very helpful to get a grasp of what accounting was and whether or not I wanted to enter it as a profession. But when I actually started, I was like, why did I even go to school for accounting? Because everything is hands-on. And it's hard to do that unless you are actually participating in an audit. And for me, I got to just jump right in and help with a filing of a 10Q. And that was by far the most I've learned in any 24-hour period. And probably more than I learned in the entire class of audit. So I think the learning process is always continual, and the whatever period that they give you for training is just kind of like a preliminary. You're just going to learn a lot.
So for the internship, did you say that doing the emerging leaders is a prereq, like it's required to do that
It is
before?
not.
Okay.
It's a good prerequisite, because
Gotcha.
if you are able to get into the emerging leaders program, you're more
Good
likely
shot
to
at
get
an internship. Okay.
right.
But,
They kind of like all flow into one another.
yeah.
Ideally. So if you get into the Emerging Leaders program, you have a higher chance of getting an internship. And if you get an internship, unless you do a really crummy job, you're getting a job on it. So I know we had like 20 people, 25 people who had internships this past summer, and they all got job offers. So, I mean, the hard part is beginning it.
Gotcha.
So once you can do that, everything else is just kind of learn what you can from the internship, do what you can going forward.
How would you suggest we as Liberty students differentiate ourselves from other schools since we're not a priority school?
I think your resume kind of itself is a good way to do that. There's a lot of opportunities here as a school that a lot of other places don't have. I know we have like our CSERs required, but I would definitely make the most out of that, because it's a great opportunity to show that you're not doing, no one else knows that it's required except for you guys.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity to just kind of show that through your key, like couple phrases, like I had the opportunity to work for someone and help develop this group of people and, aid in the development of their learning process or something like that. Instead of your typical had to help 5 people learn accounting. Like, there's a difference in, you get, when you're reading that, you see, oh, someone was stuck with people tutoring. Someone was helping, inspire someone to do something better. And a firm is more likely to invest in someone who really wants to be there and who wants to learn about what they're doing, love what they're doing, and try to get better at it through the process. So that's definitely a good way to do that. If you have the opportunity to have a phone call interview or anything, I think I mentioned last year, Wes Barrow, he's our national recruiter for the office. He is a Christian. He graduated from Liberty, the online program. So he's a good person to kind of bounce things off of. I can send you his email and stuff as well, just as tips for kind of getting in. But I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is at least your actions as you are kind of going about the process. If you ever go to a college fair and you're actually handing them your resume, shaking their hand and that kind of thing, there's a big difference from someone who's all there, all business, just wants the job versus someone who's truly passionate about growing a relationship. I think that's something that Liberty does really well, is help groom you to grow relationships. So I would definitely take advantage of that. That's the answer to the question.
Yeah, that's great.
Any other questions? It can be CPA related, anything related. Yeah, right. CPA related. Go ahead.
What should I do day-to-day activities of a your job? Like, what's an average day for you?
Oh boy. I don't know if you want to know.
It's a hard question to ask.
I know.
Take answer. At least it was.
Busy season, non-busy season. So non-busy season hours are generally a lot more relaxed. And I say relaxed very loosely. So for us at least as a firm, we usually, it depends on your office, depends on your engagement team. I get to work anywhere between 8 and 8:30, and I'm working on some kind of list of areas that my manager and senior have talked about with me. For example, I'm in charge of one subsidiary of our major client. So I have 7 or 8 areas that I'm expected to get through in the 4-week time span that I'm there. And my job as a staff, as an experienced staff, as opposed to a staff line, my job is to keep the communication lines open with them and say, all right, this is ready for review, this is ready for review, this is okay, but these items are outstanding and open. I am over budget, I am under budget, hours for this were not right last year because I spent 12 hours more working on this than they did last year, so I don't know what they were doing, but it was probably wrong. That kind of stuff. Versus this entering staff level is to really just look at what we did last year, kind of roll over what we're doing this year, and apply what your senior is telling you to do. Like, this is what we're testing, this is how we test it. Not just do it and ask me if you have questions. So I guess your day is kind of like up in the air for me as an experienced staff, because I can kind of do whatever I want as long as I'm moving forward in my areas. And if I'm moving forward in my areas, then I'm more likely to be able to help the other staff with his areas, which might be behind or might be help clearing things with it, or stuff like that. Busy season hours, kind of everything goes out the window. You just do what they tell you. Yeah, you just come in, you expect to work late, you expect to go get dinner because you're the lowest on the totem pole, which is just universal, and you just work. But I think if you love what you're doing, it's not like work. At least for me, I love like the audit and the process and doing what I'm doing. So the 60 hours or however many hours, it's not so much work. I actually am learning each step of the way. The people that I'm with, I enjoy being around. And everyone at that point, like 7:30 at night, everyone starts to lose a little bit. So, I mean, we're accountants, right? You can't be serious for 12 hours a day sitting in a chair. I know, right? So, I mean, everything is a little different on a day-to-day basis. This season is obviously a little more serious. But
This is a practical question. I'm engaged and I see that you're married. How does like the
I'm
busy
not
season?
married.
You're not married? Oh, it looked like. All right. But like, how does and then I'll change the question. How does like the busy season, like how do you balance that with like also like having a social life to keep from insanity?
Well, that's kind of a hard question because I have no social life for busy season. Right? You have no social life either. My senior, I kind of answer it as a general because the rest of my team is married. A lot of it is just kind of your own personal, I guess, what you're doing. Like, if you're getting in and you're doing what you need to do, and it's getting done, and you can leave at like 7:30 or whatever, then you can go home and not have to take work home and have a great, happy life for the next 8 hours, and then come back and do it again. But I mean, busy season is always going to be generally the same on a universal scale for a corporate accounting job. It's just going to be busy, and managing that is just putting your priorities first. Spending time with your wife is going to be important. Then you just need to make sure that you get the work done that you need to get done at work and don't bring home. Like my senior gets set. He gets most of his stuff done at work, so he doesn't have to bring any of it home. He can spend that time with his wife instead. Versus the opposite of staying late and working until 2:30 in the morning, and then you're gone before your boss wakes up. So obviously, there's some issues there. But I think if you go in with an open communication line and just kind of like set the bar as to, all right, this is busy season, and I just want to lay it out. This is what's going to happen. We're going to be working late. We're going to be working 8 to at least 8 every day. It's going to make life a lot easier as long as you're managing your priorities and what's important to you, keeping lines open with your team and things like that.
I have a little more, I guess, specific question, because you said like if you're working 8 to 7:30, the flow of the day? Like, is it compartmentalized? Like, is it based on obviously the work that you've given, the assignments you're given to do, but is it compartmentalized to some extent? If we kind of generally take a break, come back, or is it kind of just whatever and as it flows? But
I think it's more of the ebbs and flows type. Every team is different. It really depends on, how your team works as a group. There's many times where our teams will like go out for team lunches and, just use it as a time away to just relax off the audit, clear our heads for an hour, and then jump back into it, spend another couple hours doing quality work that way. For the most part, you're free to do what you need to do. Like, if you need to get up and walk around, no one is going to stop you from doing that. But one of the keys is definitely effective, like how effective you are and how efficient you are at doing it, especially with smaller jobs. Budgets are extremely important. So if you have to go back to a client and say, oh, by the way, we under budgeted and we are now 250 hours over what we budgeted for, and we're going to have to charge you for that. That is not going to be a happy conversation, and that's going to flow all the way down from the manager down. So there's things like, obviously you wouldn't go and take a 45-minute break just to clear your head. There's different ways to do that. And I think it all is just a matter of, seeing what you have that's on your plate that's due. Is there a way that your senior or your manager can help you work through something to make it less stressful or get it done faster in a more efficient way? Or is there something that you need to be doing in order to get yourself organized better?
so it sounds like stay on task early and often.
Yeah, for the most part, we're staying on task. There's obviously times when everyone is alone joking and pretty much at 7 o'clock. We stay late, but I think you end up staying later because your brain starts to shut down. And that's kind of the case wherever you are, whether you're studying or you're doing something else. So, any other questions?
Okay, well, I think some of you will probably want to talk for a little more after the meeting's over, but thank you, Katie.